Welcome everybody, welcome to my channel, Rewviw Books. I want to give you another review of a book that I finished yesterday, and this is actually shortlisted for the inaugural Women's Prize for Non-Fiction. So I finished How to Say Babylon, a Jamaican memoir by Safiya Sinclair. Well, what a book this is, and what a hype this book has. I didn't know that actually. I first got to know about the book when I saw it on the long list, and I absolutely wanted to read it, and now I did. What do we know, what do I know about Jamaica as a white European man? Well, actually we have a lot of romantic ideas. We know that Jamaica, the population of Jamaica is more or less poor, a lot of poverty. There is reggae music, of course, there is dub music, Bob Marley, hotels, and tourists probably coming from the United States, most of them. But Rastafari, of course, the religion, and not so much more actually, dreadlocks. And last year I read Jacqueline Crook's book, which is called Fire Rush, which is about a Caribbean family in London, England, about a young woman growing up there with her roots in Jamaica, in the cockpit country. But now I read this memoir by Safiya Sinclair, who grew up in Montego Bay, or just outside Montego Bay in Jamaica. It sounds so beautiful, sounds like holidays, Montego Bay, because there are a lot of hotels there, a lot of white American tourists and Canadian tourists, and even tourists from Germany, as I researched on. They're number 4 of the tourists coming from foreign countries to Jamaica. And Safiya is growing up there as a young girl in a Rastafari family. And I didn't know that the Rastafari, so much about the Rastafari religion. I had heard, of course, about Haile Selassie being seen as God by many Rastafaris. I don't know about all, but by some of them at least. And it is a very strict religion, and it's a religion that is also a black religion, you could say, because it is also turned against colonialism, the colonialism that has made Jamaica a poor country, that has brought African people to the Caribbean many, many decades and centuries ago. And it's also about Babylon, How to Say Babylon, the title of the book. Babylon is everything that is filled with sin. Women are not supposed to wear pants, they're supposed to wear skirts, otherwise they fall victim for Babylon. Babylon is sin, Babylon is the white world, more or less. It's the world that tries to sort of corrupt the Rastafari, who is living his I beautiful religious life, revolutionary life kind of. And on the one hand, the father of Safiya Sinclair, who has 4 children together with his wife Esther, he wants to protect his children from Babylon, from the outside sinful world. On the other hand, he's so strict and so serious and so, well, unemotional at times, many times actually, that he can only see himself. He cannot see the needs and longings and dreams of his girls, of his daughters, but he is sort of forbidding everything, even the contact to other children. He's a very strict Rastafari, fundamentalist Rastafari, and Safiya is suffering a lot in her childhood, and even her siblings are suffering a lot because the father even gets violent. And her mother, she is trying she's like the soft woman who has fallen for this man, who loves this man, who has given birth to his 4 children, who tries to make the best for her children, but then who's never allowed actually to step out of the shadow of his shadow. He is a reggae musician. He plays like a Bob Marley best of kind of set in Japan. He goes to Japan, makes recordings there, but his reggae career as a musician doesn't go so well. So Safiya is suffering a lot. She goes to a private school in Jamaica where many white kids go, and they ridicule her for her dreadlocks. The dreadlocks play a very important role as well. Hair plays a very important role, because the dreadlocks that Safiya has to wear on her head, she wants to get rid of them. And when she's 16, 17 years old, she has the opportunity to become a model. And when you see her today, you recognize why she could become a model. She's a very beautiful woman. She wrote poems on the one side and she wanted to become a model, but the people in the model industry in America, where she went later, they said to her, you have to get rid of your dreadlocks. And she said, my father will never allow this. Never, ever. Forget it. Because the dreadlocks are a symbol that people are good Rastafaris, that the father has his family under control. So this is a childhood, youth years, young years of a lot of suffering, a lot of poetry as well, because the poetry comes into Safiya's life with her mother. She is giving her, she's pointing her into that direction of reading poems, of writing poems. Then she gets her books, she gets her a Microsoft the Microsoft Encarta. I had that many years ago, 25 years ago, when the internet came sort of become very public, came into the public. The Encarta was a dictionary on CD-ROM where you could read the dictionary and you could sort of click on certain things, on hyperlinks. That was new at the time, and then Encarta would take you out onto the internet. And Safiya is studying this as a young girl. She's sort of trying to, because her father has constricted her to that room where she's living in, constricted her to this world. The Encarta is a way for her of getting to know about the world and getting out of her little room. Unfortunately, the father is also very violent. He beats his children. He beats Safiya in one incident very strongly, very brutally with a belt, with his belt, the red belt that was hanging in his room beside the portrait of Haile Selassie. But then Safiya, she never gives up. She's struggling, she's fighting, and she is a fighter. And her mother is supporting her as good as it gets, as good as she can. And she gets scholarships, she gets out to America. Father says you always have to return. And first, like when she's 20, 21, 22, she is able to leave Jamaica because she knows she has to leave Jamaica and she has to leave her father, a violent father, in order to become the woman and the person that she wants to be. And that was the poet Safiya Sinclair. This book is written with so much love for the siblings and for the mother, and even, which I really did not understand that well, because, okay, a father is always a father, but how she sort of reunites even with her father in the end. Spoiler alert, that's not a spoiler alert. That's really hard to read, and it was something that I thought of, my God, how could she do that? Because I probably would have never spoken to my father again if he had treated me and my siblings like that. But every family is different. And Safiya becomes a beautiful woman. She becomes, look at pictures of her. I follow her on Instagram. When you see her now reading in Texas and California, in New York, in Europe, she always wears beautiful clothes. I'm not the guy look at me, who's wearing great, beautiful clothes, but when I see Safiya Sinclair wearing all this beautiful stuff that belongs to it as part of her sort of expression, to express herself with these beautiful colors and clothes. She's really a beautiful person in her mind and in her appearance. And the book is great. It's opened my eyes. It gave me so much to think about how to say Babylon. It gave me a new look, a fresh new look at Jamaica, a country where I've never been. Maybe I will never go to. We'll see. But a country that has always fascinated us in Europe because of the music, because of the culture of Rastafari. And now I get a different view about it, on it, and it's a critical view, which I think is, but at the same time it's also a love poem to Jamaica, because a minority of Jamaicans are actually Rastafaris. Most of the Jamaicans are not into Rastafari religion. But it's not only a story about Jamaica, it is also a story about womanhood, about girlhood, about becoming the person you want to be, and that makes it a very universal story. And I think that, without having read the other books that are on the short list of the non-fiction Women's Prize this year, I think that How to Say Babylon by Safiya Sinclair is a very strong candidate for a win. Thank you for watching this, and I hope to see you soon on the channel. Bye.